Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am Chris Daughtery, and coming up on today's show, we're going to be breaking down 5 things that the Cincinnati Bengals need to clean up, need to focus on during this week of practice before their second NFL preseason game against the Washington Commanders. Before we get into that, though, we do have a little bit of an injury update here as well. Zac Taylor talking about Geno Stone, saying that he has a soft tissue injury and is going to be week to week right now. Don't think it's going to be anything serious there for Geno Stone, but it is going to be something to monitor there. And I do think this gives a good opportunity for some of those young safeties, whether that's Dejon Anthony, Tyson Anderson, P.J. Jules, maybe even Jalen Key as well, to get some meaningful playing time, get some meaningful reps during those preseason games and even at practice as well. So we'll continue to monitor this Geno Stone injury, but soft tissue injuries usually don't end up really being that big of a deal. Like I said, Zac Taylor said he is going to be week to week, so we will continue to monitor that. All right, in the Bengals week 1 preseason game against the Eagles, there was some good, but there was also some things that the Bengals do need to clean up. It is obviously the preseason. You can take these games, kind of like practice, honestly. They're kind of like those joint practices, but in front of more fans and broadcasted on TV. So while there were some negatives during this game that we're going to talk about here on today's show, you can take it as things that can be addressed, and, it's only the first preseason game. You still got 2 more preseason games before the Bengals actually go out there for the regular season. So definitely think, as long as you can take that, watch on film and clean some of these things up, there's definitely things here that, can improve for the Bengals. So the first thing that I thought of here was there were just too many costly penalties in that football game for the Bengals and the Eagles. And I'll be honest, going back and just looking at some of the stats and looking at the penalties, I was actually kind of surprised that the Eagles actually got called for more penalties than the Bengals did. And honestly, there were probably some pass interference penalties as well that the Eagles could have been called for that weren't called. But really, when it comes to, the Bengals, they had 8 penalties for 68 yards in this game. That's just the true yardage. When you really look into, some of the big yardage, though, from some of these penalties, it really was more than 68 yards. So we're going to talk about that here. The first costly penalty, I went back and watched some of the game yesterday. Lucas Patrick had a chop block early on. That took a Jamar Chase touchdown off the board. Now, kind of arguable. I think he kind of, was trying to get over to help Amarius Mims on a block and just kind of tripped over his own feet and fell down, and the defender tripped over him. And, I guess technically it is a chop block. I don't necessarily think he was doing it on purpose, though. But like I said, it did take a touchdown off the board. Now, the Bengals did still score on a Tanner Hudson touchdown grab a couple of plays later. Good job by the offense to be able to overcome that, because I think it was like 2nd and 20 or something like that at that point. But you don't want to have to, rely on the offense to score multiple touchdowns just to put 7 points up on the board. There was also a Cam Grandy holding call and negated a very, very big Gary Brightwell kickoff return down to the Eagles' 28-yard line. So that's what I'm talking about when I mean really the penalty yardage is actually more than 68 yards, because that brought the Bengals all the way back to their own 20. So do the math there. That's a lot of yardage that you need to add up when it comes to those penalties. Jalen Key was also called for a hold on a short kickoff return. That really didn't, affect much because it was a short kickoff return, but it was another special teams penalty there. There was an offsides by DJ Ivey on that missed 55-yard field goal. Now, the Eagles converted that 4th and 2 on the very next play of that drive, and the defense was able to hold the Eagles to a field goal, but that's 3 extra points that the Eagles put on the board that your defense had an opportunity to get off the field. They did get off the field twice on that drive, but a costly penalty there on that 55-yard missed field goal opportunity for the Eagles put 3 extra points on the board for the Eagles. There was also that really costly roughing the snapper penalty by McKinley Jackson. That led to a touchdown on the very next play, I believe it was. So, basically that's a 4-point swing right there. You held them to only 3 points. The penalty takes those 3 points off the board. They end up scoring a touchdown, so that's +4 extra points there for the Eagles. And that 3 and then the 4, that's 7. That was the difference in the ball game. So they got to, just continue to clean up some of these penalties. It's not just, sometimes you have a hold and things like that. Those things happen, but costly penalties in costly moments, that can be, something that hurts the Bengals in the long run. So if you guys want the Bengals to clean up some of these penalties, make sure you guys like today's video for me. Hopefully next week against the Commanders, the Bengals can clean that up just a little bit more. All right, next thing the Bengals need to clean up going into their next preseason game. Some of the passing defense was just not very good at all. There were multiple guys that, like I said, when I went back and watched the game, multiple guys got picked on throughout the night. DJ Turner was one. He got spun around on a just regular slant route down in the red zone early in the game. Josh Newton lost a couple 50-50 balls to Johnny Wilson, who had a pretty big day for the Eagles. Jalen Davis also got beat on a jump ball by Johnny Wilson. Also had a PI called on him on that very same play. So he got mossed and also had a penalty called on him. DJ Ivey just got beat a lot. He did have a nice PBU early on in the game, so I do want to give him a little bit of credit for that. Also had, technically wasn't a PBU, but he had nice coverage on a play that the Bengals took a shot to the end zone and they weren't able to convert on that. But he got cooked by Darius Cooper multiple times in this game. He got cooked right before the half. There were 35 seconds left before halftime. Darius Cooper scored a touchdown on that again. Nate Brooks, he got spun around a couple of times by Johnny Wilson on, what seemed to be simple routes, honestly. Some of these guys just looked really silly. And, I don't want to pick on the linebackers too much, but they really didn't help you out too much in the passing game either. So I want you to grade the Bengals secondary versus the Eagles at the pinned comment of today's video. Grade it for me, A, B, C, D, or F. I want you to be completely honest because, last time we were talking about the secondary, there were a lot of people that were, just saying I was trying to crap on the team and whatnot, but I'm going to give it to you guys straight. I thought the secondary was not good against the Eagles. So I want to hear from you guys. Grade the secondary versus the Eagles down at the pinned comment of today's video. I also thought the run defense could be a little bit better. I don't think they were awful by any means, but early on in the game when that first team defense was out there, as the Eagles the first couple of drives, they were moving down the field and, there were some seams early on that they were able to bust up the middle. Now, when the Eagles got down to the red zone, I thought that defensive line locked in a little bit better. But, throughout the entire course of the day, this is just the defense here in general. You had 3 guys out of the 4 that had over 5 yards per carry. So overall, the Eagles rushing stats, they had 33 carries for 132 yards. 4 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns there. But you take out Killian Robinson, because Killian Robinson only averaged 2 yards per carry there, he kind of brought down that average for the Eagles run game. The other 3 guys ran for 5.9 yards per carry. So they're going to have to be a little bit better when it comes to that. Like I said, it is just the first preseason game. These guys are, going to work in and they're going to get a little bit better at that. So we'll continue to monitor the Bengals, front 4, what those guys look like, kind of what the rotation looks like with those guys as well. But I do think that can be cleaned up a little bit more as well. Make sure you guys go over to chatsports.com/Bengals hoodie t-shirt. You can get this Bengals cutoff hoodie today. It is on sale right now. It was $55. You guys can get it today just for $33 just by going to chatsports.com/Bengals hoodie t-shirt. I'll put that link down at the pinned comment of today's video. It'll also be down in the description, kind of close to the top. It'll be like that second, third paragraph up there if you guys want to click on that to go get this Bengals cutoff hoodie t-shirt today. Was $55 on sale now for just $33. So before it goes back up to $55, I would assume probably once the season starts, make sure you guys go get that while it is on sale today. All right, next thing to clean up. I could have probably put the entire second-team offense on here, but I put Jake Browning because he is the leader of the second-team offense. And I'll be completely honest, I thought when Jake Browning went out there, he just did not look as confident as I think a lot of Bengals fans would like him to look. He was only 6 for 14, 62 yards passing in this game, and while he only did throw one interception to Patrick Johnson on that screen pass, there were multiple other times. Jahad Campbell dropped a pick. Eli Ricks dropped a pick. Jeremiah Trotter also dropped a pick. Really, that one kind of on Tanner Hudson to an extent. He kind of fell on the route there. So, he probably was open. Either way, the Eagles dropped a pick on that one. I think he needs to be a little bit better going forward in these preseason games. Just have a little bit more confidence as well. And Desmond Ridder, he went out there with the third team / second team, kind of depending on who was out there at the time. And he started off very, very slow, was not very good early on, but started to find his stride. So it's going to be very interesting. Maybe he can gain a little bit of confidence from, the back half of his playing time there. But it's going to be interesting. Jake Browning's definitely going to be your quarterback 2 this year, but who ends up being that quarterback 3? Can Desmond Ridder push maybe Jake Browning to be that quarterback 2? We'll see in the next 2 preseason games here for the Cincinnati Bengals. So do you want to see more Desmond Ridder versus the Commanders? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Type Y for yes or N for no if you guys want to see more Desmond Ridder. All right, the last thing that I think the Bengals could clean up before their next preseason game, the special teams. By my count anyways, I went back and I counted 4 penalties on special teams. There was one time where, Rico kind of outkicked the coverage on one of his punts. That was right before halftime. At the snap, there was 50 seconds to go before halftime. 4 missed tackles later, the Eagles were already down to the Bengals' 30-yard line on that punt return. They scored a touchdown 2 plays later. So, those are some of the things. The Bengals were able to have an opportunity to double up because of that. They got the ball after halftime as well. But, there were some negative things with the special teams. The penalties, I think, is the big one. Some of the missed tackles as well. But there were a couple of bright spots that I want to give credit to where credit is due as well. Ryan Rico had a couple really nice punts on the day. He had 5 punts, averaged 45 yards on those, 2 inside the 20. And I know for a fact one was kind of went out of bounds around like 5-6 yard line. So pinned the Eagles back on that as well. And he did have a long of 54, but that was kind of that one right before halftime where they gave up that big return. Gary Brightwell Jr. had 3 kickoff returns for 93 yards. Also had that one really long one down to the Eagles' 28 that ended up getting called back. So I do think Gary Brightwell Jr. is going to be a critical piece for the Bengals on kickoff returns. I thought Jermaine Burton had a few nice punt returns as well. He had that one return where, he had some guys miss like 3 or 4 tackles on that play for 32-yard return. And I believe he even had another one that might have got called back as well. But thought he did a really nice job. And I thought Taj Brooks really, it was kind of late in the game. It was a kickoff coverage play. The Bengals were kicking off. He came in and laid the wood. And, when it comes to those guys who are like 3, 4 on the depth chart, being special teams, available for special teams can really go a very, very long way into helping some of those guys make the 53-man roster. And then Evan McPherson as well. He was 2 for 2 on the day on field goals, had a 51-yard long that he nailed, also 3 for 3 on extra points. So while there are some things that the Bengals can clean up before their next preseason game, you can take it as this was just a practice in front of fans. Hopefully they can go this week. They can watch the film. They can get better because that, at the end of the day, is what the preseason is all about. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to Bengals Breakdown. We are trying to get to 20,000 subscribers. If we get there before the next Bengals preseason game, we will give a extra giveaway to our Bengals mini helmet raffle. So make sure you guys are subscribed if you have not done so already. Make sure you join us as well for our Bengals watch parties here on the channel. Hit that sub button. It's youtube.com/BengalsTV.